Hey everybody, welcome to Crochet Amigurumi 101 with Jennifer. I'm happy to be back this week. I was off last week and it was good to get away, but I'm happy to be home. I am such a homebody. I like vacations, but I like my house. So I am happy to be home and back into the routine of life here. So today is a tutorial on how to keep your project from slanting. So what I mean by slanting is that your stitches, if you're doing a long stretch of stitches, say you're working on a body or an arm or a leg, you might notice that your stitches start slanting a little bit in a diagonal pattern or going towards the right. They don't necessarily line up. You see how your side stitches are going sideways. Now this happens if you're doing a regular yarn over. It also happens, but not as drastically, if you're doing a yarn under. Now you can see yarn under still does slant a bit, but it's not as noticeable as the yarn over technique. It's just the way that the stitches come out when you're doing a yarn under versus a yarn over. Now, this isn't a big deal. You know, if this is something that doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. I've, never really had a problem where I'm like, gosh, my stitches are slanting and it's driving me nuts. But there is a situation where it has bothered me. And so I kept searching and searching for a while to figure out how I could make it work. Oh my goodness. I don't know what that was. I think it might have been candle flame stuff. That stuff that flicks off of a candle. Sorry about that. So you might notice that, okay, there is a lot of tutorials on color changing. And we color change in rows so that we can have stripes, back and forth stripes. But there's not a lot of information on how to do a vertical stripe. So I'm talking like changing in the middle of your round and continuing to change in that same spot. So as you can see right here, I tried doing a yarn over for the body, and then I tried doing a yarn under for the color change, and it still slants. It still goes to the side. This is where it's very obvious that you're getting slanted color change. And even in a fully yarn under technique, this is all yarn under, and then this color change is all yarn under. See how it's still going to the side. Not as bad, but it's still going to the side. So I did some digging around and looking around YouTube and trying to figure something out, and I still couldn't find anything that I wanted. So I think I may have invented a unique stitch. I don't know, maybe. I'm kind of proud of this. But if I have not invented this, I would love to see who actually did invent this. So what I set out to do is make a vertical color change in one spot going up. Okay? Now this is done several different techniques all put together. You can do a full color without color changing. And you see how neat this is? Let me get a darker background for you. Do Do you see now how your stitches are not slanting at all? They're perfectly lined up with each other. Now this is the yarn under technique. Or I'm sorry. This is not, this is the yarn over technique. This is the way I was taught and how a lot of people do. Yarn over, okay? So because you can see by these little V's right here that are made. That's a V, that's a V. These are all V's, but they're going straight up. There is no slant to these stitches. So it's super, super cool that you can see your project would be growing up, not growing sideways, as you would in a spiral. This is still done in the round. The whole thing is done in the round, as usual. But let me show you how I've made it straight up. It's all in the inside. See that? That is what you get when you go through one loop only. It kind of looks like a shoelace, like that. So look, in order to have gotten this to this point where my stitches are standing straight up, stacked on top of each other, I went into the front loop only, the entire way around. So only my back loop is sticking out in the back on the inside of the project, but it looks completely normal. It looks just like a regular round of stitches. And they're all stacked on top of each other all the way around. So this will keep your project from going sideways. Let me show you in another way, because I know that a lot of you prefer to do the yarn under method, and that's totally fine if you want to do that. I'm not stopping you. It is a little bit more difficult to do a yarn under because it tightens up your stitches. Let me just show you what I mean. Same exact yarn, same exact size hook, but this one is a yarn under, making the little cross stitches, the little X's, and this is a yarn over, the traditional method. See how they're completely different size. So yes, a yarn under will change the size of your project. So I modified the pattern for the color changes a little bit in order to get you, if you are a yarn under fan, you can still get this perfect color change vertically going upwards. And see, same as with the single crochet, doing the yarn over, we still have our stitches standing straight up doing yarn under, because we have gone into the front loop only on the working side of our project. So you're going to have these little rows inside your project that are, you know, bumped out, but it's not going to show. It's not going to be a big deal. You know, it looks completely normal from the outside, and there isn't any situation that I know of where you would turn part of your project and have it outside. But you know, stranger things have happened. But this has really changed how I think I could work on some projects, because like I said, I've always tried to get a vertical stripe instead of a horizontal stripe, and it just never worked out because it would always drift over to the right. Now it'll drift to the left if you're left-handed. Same with the, even if it's just regular stitches, it'll drift to the left if you're left-handed. So it just, whatever hand you're working with, it drifts to that side, just naturally. So I'm going to show you two things, actually 3 things. I'm going to show you how to work in the front loop only to get the stacked look for the yarn under. I'm going to show you how to work front loop for the yarn over. And then, actually, so I'm going to show you 4 things. I'll show you how to do the color change, this new stitch that I think I've invented. I will show you how to do this color change for each one of these little swatches here. So let's start out with the yarn under. I'm in the back of my project here. Let me get my, there we go. Okay, so it's pretty simple. You're not doing anything super extravagantly different at all. You're just going through, see that front loop right there? You're going through this one instead of going through both of them. You're not going to go through both because that will cause your stitches to veer off to the right. You're going to go into just the front loop. Now remember, this is the yarn under technique that I'm showing you first. And I find that I get a more defined little X mark stitch if I go ahead and yarn over both ways, both pulls through. Some people will modify it and do a yarn under and then a yarn over. It's however you do it is fine. So there we go. 1 into each front loop. 1 single crochet into each front loop. And this pulls our stitches up straight. See how they're just working right on top of each other. It's super, I just love this technique. It's really cool. Let me do a couple more ways to show you here. Okay, front loop only. Yarn under, yarn under. Front loop, yarn under, yarn under. All right, so that is how you get your stitches to stand up straight. And every row is gonna look the same on top. You have your V's there for your single crochets. And now you will have a perfectly straight arm, body, leg, head, whichever. There you go. All right, I'm gonna set this aside and show you the front loop only on a regular traditional yarn over. Okay, so same as the other one. You go into the front loop only, yarn over, front loop, front loop, front loop. All right, so that is how you do it for a regular yarn over technique. And your V's are stacked right on top of each other. They look so cute. They do look really nice and neat here. One thing I did notice about using this method with a yarn over, because you're going through just the front loop, you do see a little bit of a space. You can see how there's some daylight coming through. My suggestion is try and go down a half size. Like I'm using a 3.5. So if I was doing a yarn over method of this stacked stitches, I would probably go down to a 3, just so that I could eliminate that little bit of daylight coming through. As you can see, this is where a yarn under comes in handy, because your stitches are so tight, your fabric is so tight, you can't see any daylight coming through. This is honestly a killer on my hands. Yarning under, just it's not good for my hands because I crochet so much that this technique is a little bit too difficult for me to last very long on a project. Although I love the way that the cross stitches look, and I love the way that the fabric is tighter looking, it's just, for me, it's not personally something that I can do for very long. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this color change, this vertical color change with virtually no indication of changing yarn color at all. You can't even really see it, how we've done this color change. And like I said, I hope that I invented this, but I don't know. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm just gonna unravel this piece and start back where I was when I was doing the color changes, so that we can get this little color change a little bit higher. I'm imagining so many different things you could do now that there's a way to do a vertical color change like this. So many ideas right now floating in my head. Okay, I'm such a geek. I know everybody talks about how crocheting is addictive and amigurumi is addictive. I think that I probably annoy most of my family because all I do is crochet, but whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start this color change in the stitch before where you would think that you're supposed to. So let me get up to where I'm going. And I have just dropped my color because I didn't want to drag it around. I did drag it on the first row, and you can see the peach color peeking through. So I stopped doing that and I just started dropping it and picking it up. That's why it kind of looks like a shoelace in the back. Okay, so we are at the stitch before where you would think you would want to color change, because this is right here a normal stitch, and then this is your color, your new color. So what we're going to do is you are going to do a split single crochet. Now that means you're going to go in to this portion of your single crochet right there. You're not going into the space right here where you would normally go, and you're not going to be doing the front loop only on this one. You're going to be doing a split single crochet into this crochet right here, okay? You're going to draw up a loop like you normally would with your old yarn. Now you're going to drop that. You're going to bring up your new color, and you're going to complete that stitch with your new color. So yarn over, pull through both loops, okay? So now you've secured your new color onto your stitch or onto your hook using that split single crochet. So right here is your very first stitch that you're gonna go into. I did blocks of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? So that means I'm gonna go into the front loop because we're still stacking. We still wanna keep our stitches stacked. Front loop only, yarn over, pull through. Sorry, I lost my yarn there. Okay, same thing for the next one. Yarn over, pull through. Front loop, yarn over, pull through. All right, so we have 3, and see how this has pulled our stitches up, and there's a perfectly straight line here, and it looks like you can't even see that color. You cannot even see that color change right there. Okay, let's keep going. So remember how I said you have to start your color change in the stitch before you would think. Well, you have to end your color change in the stitch before you would think as well. All right, so I'm on stitch 5. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Technically, I still want this one right here because I'm doing it in groups of 6. What we're gonna do is we're gonna split our single crochet again right here. So you go into that and see how I've poked through. Gonna draw up with my color. Hold on, I caught some white there, hold on. Pull up with my color, drop that, and go back to my white, my main color. Yarn over, pull through. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten that down on the peach, tighten it down on the white. Let's go to our next stitch, which is the white loop, front white loop, and you continue on in the same front loop method. So see how that split single crochet has given us a perfect little, here, let me pull this down a little bit. There we go. It has divided our colors perfectly. And we're still stacking because we're doing front loop only. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna do that again. So I'll be right back. All right, I'm almost back to where we're gonna do our color change. So I came back a little bit early for you. I have 2 more before I color change. So front loop and front loop. Now here is where I want to color change. So again, I'm gonna do, it's called a split single crochet, where you're basically just splitting that V in half, going through that space. Okay, let me show you that one more time. Split that V in half. yarn over and pull up with your old yarn. So then when you have 2 loops of your old yarn, that is when you drop your white or whatever color is your main color. And then you finish your loop. Sorry, that was a yarn over, and you draw through both loops. There we go. And cinch your white down a little bit there so that it's even. All right, and now again, we're going to go through the front loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, I'm doing this through the camera, so it's a little bit awkward. And 5. And just like with our color change over here, we changed in the stitch before you would think that you're supposed to. So split this single crochet right here. Split that in half. Go ahead and pull up with your old color. Drop that, and now bring in, sorry, I was off camera there. Drop your color and bring in your main color again through both of those loops. Now we're going to do again front loop only. See? All right, I'm gonna get a couple of rows up of just the white so you can see what this looks like if you were to just make a little patch in the middle of a belly or a stripe on a head or something like that. I'm gonna go around a few rows and come back and show you what that would look like. All right, so I built up some rows here so you could see that this is what it would look like if you had a vertical stripe or a little patch or something inside of the middle of an arm or a head or a body or what have you. Anything basically you could do, whatever you wanted. Now that we have figured out this way of doing a vertical, I'm gonna call this a stacked split color change. All right, so this is the stacked single crochet using the traditional yarn over method. See, all of our little V's are stacked right on top of each other, and it goes all the way around in the same way. They all look the same stacked. All right, so that I'm going to put that aside. That's yarn over. Now I will show you how to do the color change on a yarn under. It's a little bit more fidgety because number 1, the stitches are tighter, and number 2, it's a little bit different to split a cross stitch. So let me pull this out and I will be right back. All right, so just like with the other one with the yarn over technique, you're doing the same thing with the yarn under, is where you're going to be joining in the stitch before you would think you're supposed to. So that means that we're going to split this single crochet. Now once you get your first initial split, it's easier, but because of the fact that you're yarning under, it's pulling the yarn in a different way. So this single crochet here may not always be visible as a V. You kind of have to turn your work a little bit, and then you can see that there's a V right there. See what I'm saying? It's kind of hiding if you're looking at it from this way. If you're looking at it that way, you're gonna not know exactly where it's at. So turn it a little bit to you and see if you can get it, and there it is right there. So you're gonna split that V just like normal, and you're going to do your yarn under and pull through. Oops, I lost it. Yarn under and pull through, bringing up 2 loops now on your hook. And when you have 2 loops, that's when you drop your main color and you go ahead and bring in your new color. And you would finish that in the same way with the yarn over, or I'm sorry, the yarn under technique. So kind of anchor that down a little bit by pulling on the pink. Now we're going to go through the front loop only of this single crochet right here. So that's our first one. That's 1. And there's 2. I'm sorry, I did a yarn under for those, or yarn over. Let me go back. Okay. Yarn under. Like I said before, you can modify it to do yarn under, yarn over, however it works for you, but my X's are more defined if I do both of them yarn under. Front loop only, and this is stitch number 2 of our new color. Front loop, 3, front loop, there's 4, and front loop 5, yarn over, yarn under, sorry, and pull up. Oh, I got a straggler there. I'm gonna go ahead and redo that stitch right there. Okay, now we're at our last one, which is technically still our color change number 6, because we're still getting that nice little V there. And we will split this V. So split that. See what I mean when I'm splitting? I'm going right through and it goes directly into the back of the piece. So you're not, actually splitting yarn, you're splitting the V. Okay, so go in there and again, draw up another loop with your old color before you get ready to switch. So you have 2 loops, and then you bring in your next color. Okay, and kind of anchor that down a little bit by pulling on the back of that blue, and then you just continue on your way of doing your front loop only in your yarn under technique. Yarn under is a little bit easier for me when I use a inline hook, and even though I hate inline hooks, Valerie knows how much I hate inline hooks. But for this particular one, I was using the tapered because it's smaller, a smaller hook, and I wanted to use a smaller hook to see if the smaller one would make a difference in how it looked when it was stacked. So use whatever hook size you want and whatever tapered or inline, whichever one works best for you. I'm gonna finish this and then I'm gonna do one more example of the color change for you just in case you didn't catch it the first time. Okay, I'm back. So this is where we're going to do our color change, and we're going to split that V again. Now, depending on how tight you pulled on the last row, it might be harder for you to get into that little spot there. So you might have to wiggle it through a couple of times before you can actually get in there, which is what I had to do earlier. So there's my V right here. There's one post, and then there's the other post. I'm going in the center, and I'm drawing up 2 loops of my old color. Okay, still have 2 loops. I'm going to drop that, and then I'm going to grab my new color and yarn over and pull it through to complete the stitch. And then I'm going to go on with my next stitch right there. So you can see how it pulls it into a straight line. You don't have any indication of a color change there. And so front loop only. Again, there's 3. I am really not good at yarning under. 4, 5, and our last stitch, 6, is where we do our color change. So we go in to split that stitch with our with our color that we have still on there. Draw up your loop. Now you have 2 loops of the old color, and you're going to bring in your main color. Pull through those 2, and then onto the rest of the pattern, which is front loop only. There we go. And I'm gonna do a couple more rows of pink just to show you what this yarn under would look like in the center. And I was gonna say also, yes, your yarn gets very tangled when you color change. So just be patient. You know, it's not gonna knot really, it's just gonna be kind of twisted on itself, but you just have to kind of work with it and it'll straighten out. So let me get a couple more rows and I'll be right back. All right, so there's a few more rows of the pink on top of this color change here for the yarn under version of the stacked stitch. The thing about the yarn under is you have to compensate for the size difference. If you want something that's going to be this size, then yarn under is not for you, or you're going to have to use a bigger hook to accommodate the tightness of these stitches. So here is what I'm calling the stacked split single crochet color change. And then of course, let's go over this one more time. The reason that your stitches are straight up and down instead of slanting to the side is because we have crocheted in the front loop only of each round. So you can make these projects as big or as small as you want. You know, you can stack, you know, just a row of or a round of 12, like for an arm. You know, if you're making an arm, it's usually about 12 single crochets or sometimes even 6 single crochets wide. So you can use this method for anything that you want. And side note, this does work perfectly fine with invisible increases and invisible decreases, because if you are already familiar with an invisible increase, you're using the front loop only for that invisible increase. So you can go ahead and do the front loop for your increase. You know, like this front loop right here, you can do your increase. And then you could go into both of them if you want, or you just do an increase in both of these, or both of your increases in the front loop. And for a decrease, you're only using the front two anyway. Like that. So this stacked method will work for your invisible increases and decreases. So there's the difference for you between slanted stitches. These two are slanted. Yarn under technique without color changing and without stacking is still a little bit less, like I was saying, it's still a little bit less noticeable of a slant than the yarn over traditional. So if you don't want to crochet in the front loops only and you want to go ahead and crochet in both of your stitches, that's totally fine. Doing a yarn under will definitely give you a more stacked version of that than just a regular traditional yarn under, or I'm sorry, yarn over going through your rounds. But if you want them straight up and down vertically, do the stacked method where you single crochet into the front loop only. I hope that this works for you guys. If you have any questions, just let me know. And you can, I would love to see somebody's projects. If you have like a specific thing that you were working on where you wanted color change to look like this, where it's vertical, post it in the group. I'd love to see it. So have fun and keep working on new techniques. See you guys next week.